Man, it's always something, right? No matter how far you come in your journey, man, there's always going to be one thing that's going to be lurking over your shoulder. No matter how much of an expert you are, whether you're a doctor, lawyer, athlete, musician, teacher, anything, there's always going to be this one thing lurking over your shoulder, man. I don't even really want to talk about it, but we got to. It's important, man. We can't run from it. We're going to run towards it. Let's get into it. So before we get into it, we got to define what we're talking about, right? We know we're talking about resistance, but more specifically, we're talking about internal resistance, which are the things that we can control, not external, which may be things like your environment, the weather outside, some of the people that you're around. You can dictate that, but not all the time, right? And then also, just maybe haters. All of those things are external forces that we can't control. Today we're talking about internal resistance, and got my dictionary here. Oh man, when the last time you seen one of these, right? But to work against or actively oppose, to withstand, adjective as resistible. That's the definition of resist. To work against or actively oppose. So let's think about that for a second. If we're on the path and we're doing things correctly, we created a plan, we're taking action, but one day we hit a roadblock, something that's we just can't take that next step, or we're just not able to. That's that internal resistance where maybe, you're active in it, you're doing things, you're going, and then all of a sudden you start to feel a little bit lazy. You kick your feet up, you take your foot off the gas, start engaging in some self-sabotage. That little voice in your head, a little devil on your shoulder telling you can't do it. Man, don't even worry about it. You do it tomorrow. Let's take a break. Hey, let's get another game in. You know what I'm saying? Let's hit the blunt. Or maybe, hey man, let's go get some drinks. Don't worry about that. That'll handle itself. All of those things, man, that's resistance, right? When you hear those things, something simple. You don't walk past this pencil on the ground 10, 15 times a day, and you still ain't picked it up. That little voice in your head, oh, don't worry about it, man, it ain't that big of a deal. It ain't that big of a deal till somebody slip on it. You know what I'm saying? Or something comes of it that you wasn't expecting, right? So we got to get that out of our lives. Now that we understand what resistance is, we could take a look back at maybe something that you're engaging in right now, or maybe a previous goal where time just started going by and you really wasn't making any changes, any progress in what you were doing. We can ask ourselves about it. We take a look at it and say, why did this happen? And it can boil down, there's a lot of different things, but we're going to touch on 3 of them today. And the first one is going to be ignorance. You ignorant to the fact that you're encountering resistance. You don't know that this is what's happening to you. You could just be thinking, wow, man, I'm really just feeling lazy today. Like, I really just don't feel like going to get that workout in. Or I really just don't feel like putting together a budget. I just don't feel like doing that today. These things are resistance, and maybe you're not understanding that that's what it is. So that's one of them, right? We know what it is now, so we can't be ignorant to it going forward. Number 2 would be that you started with a lack of intention. You're doing things, but you don't know why you're doing them. Sometimes we allow other people to make decisions or dictate how we move, the things that we do. Some people play sports, but they don't know why they're even playing. Is it to make friends? Is it to receive a scholarship? Or is it just for the love of the game? You just like getting out there and sweating. You got to understand when you're attacking these goals, why'd you start your business? Why did you start it in the first place? Because when you have an intention, in those moments of resistance, that's something that you can look back on. And I highly recommend that it's written down along with your business plan or next to your goals, the reason why you put this as a goal. That's actually a very important part of goal setting, and we'll talk about that too. But just having a lack of intention means that you encounter a lot more resistance. There's a lot more excuses that can mount up when you really don't have a reason for why you're doing what you're doing. And then thirdly, this is another one that's pretty big. It's just a fear of success, a fear of letting go of where you're at and getting uncomfortable. You're comfortable where you are, and it can be scary to push yourself out of that comfort zone. Do something that's new, try something that you haven't done before, make a fool out of yourself, but you have to realize that it's all about the experience. Once we take a step back away and out of performance, and we get ourselves to a standing of experiencing what's going on, experiencing what's happening, we can really enjoy the process, and we encounter less resistance and a lot less self-sabotage that you can run into. And that last part around engaging in more of the experience rather than believing that we have to perform, that comes from Professor Stephen Tomlinson. But that's something that's really important, guys, is that you have to understand that, when you're reaching your goals, when you're going for these different things in your life, you're going to encounter resistance. Just because you created a plan, just because you have the money to do it now, just because you got the time, you didn't have time to work out before, but hey, it's summer, the kids might be away somewhere else, or, maybe you cut back on some hours, but you got the time now. That doesn't mean that you're not going to encounter resistance. You can let that momentum carry you 1 day or 2 days, but then eventually you're going to, boom, hit that wall of resistance again, where you have to get yourself back over the hump. And the last thing that we're going to tie off on is why it's so important to overcome resistance. The reason why it's really important to overcome resistance is because those are inflection points where you're going to push yourself to the next level, where you're going to find more success right after that crest. See, right there, resistance is that last little bit where if you just pushed a little bit further, a little bit harder, you get over the hump, and then you start rolling back downhill, and you get that momentum to carry you back up to that next inflection point where you do it all over again. See, these things don't stop, and they're always going to come up. But it's important to understand why we need to push through. So when you do encounter the resistance, you acknowledge it, right? We're not ignorant to the fact, boom, this is resistance. I know what this is. And then we reflect back on why we're doing what we're doing in the first place, so that we can push ourselves through this inflection point into success. Resistance is right there, typically is right there just before that inflection point, that crest, where you can meet success and begin rolling downhill again. And then lastly, man, it's really important once you see that you're encountering resistance, that you ask yourself, why? Why am I resisting right now? Is it the fear of success? Am I just really comfortable where I am and I don't want to go any further? Or is there a legitimate fear out there? 90% of the time, the fear is not legitimate. Fear is just something that, is put in place that we have to overcome, okay? And then to bring it all home, these are not all the reasons why you can encounter resistance, why resistance will come up. But there are some of the very important reasons why we do encounter resistance. Now, to wrap it all up, one of my coaches growing up, my first college coach from Eastern New Mexico University, go Greyhounds, baby, Mark Robato, he had this saying, man, where he would end practices on, and if guys weren't pushing themselves to where they can be, where they should be, right? If you're a top performer and you're not pushing yourself where you should be, you're encountering some resistance there. Like, why not? Are we afraid of what's about to happen if we do succeed? Are we afraid to fail? That's important too. That's a big one as well. But we ask ourselves why. And, Mark Robato, he would say that the reason why you're not doing something, that thing that you know you need to do, is either one, because you don't know what it is that you need to do, You have no understanding of it. So you just need to be taught. You need to do a little bit of education. Or 2, you don't know how to do it. You know what you need to do, but you don't know how to do it. Once again, more education, get yourself out there, or experience. Just jump right in, and figure it out along the way. And then lastly, you don't want to do it. And that's the most important one. And that is where the resistance comes in. That's really gonna hold you back. When you're resisting because you don't know what to do, that's not gonna hold you back. You can figure that out. Do a YouTube video. You can find it out. You don't know how to do it. Once again, the world is at our fingertips. Hit Google, boom. You figure out how to do it. You don't know how to make spaghetti? You can Google a recipe. Figure out how to do it. Lastly, you don't want to do it. That's the one thing that you can't Google. It's the one thing that you probably cannot Google, more than likely. That want. You gotta have it. You gotta have that drive. You gotta have an intention, right? And then once we do all of these things, we've realized that we've encountered resistance, then we can start formulating plans to overcome it and to really continue back on the path of success. And once again, man, that wraps up the video. This is Lloyd Black, your lifestyle coach, your More Life lifestyle coach. I appreciate you guys joining me today. Hit the subscribe button, share the video out to somebody. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, share it out to someone who needs to see this content. And yeah, man, hope to see you guys once again. Appreciate you for joining. Thank you very much.